that's part of my journal every morning is gratitude. Yeah, definitely. And I find I write one full page usually every morning, and I find that really makes me sort through my goals for the day, but also what I've accomplished and how I'm feeling.
Hey, I'm Ronja Sakata, founder of the Joy Academy and Queen of Joy. That's how my friends call me. It's so important to me that my life is full of joy and that I enjoy every moment because I know how fast it could be over. We can do so many things to bring joy in our lives, to create joy, and that's what this podcast is all about. I talk with people and they tell me how they bring joy to their everyday life and how they create a life full of joy. So let's dive right in, and please tell me after the episode what your takeaway is from this talk. Welcome, Patti Shales Lefkos, to the Let's Create Joy podcast. We've never met. We meet now for the first time, and that's really what I love, to find out all the wonderful things about you. And please just tell yourself, who are you? What do you do? And then we dive in what brings you joy and how do you create joy in your everyday life. And we start from there.
Oh, that is a big topic, but I'll go right ahead.
Absolutely. We just dive in. But
yeah, so who am I? Right now, I'm a journalist, an author, and an adventure traveler, and I'll get back to that. But how did I get there? Well, first, I was a teacher and a consultant and a school principal for 37 years in education in Toronto, Ontario. And then I saw the light and moved west and went to Vancouver. Now I live at Silver Star Mountain Ski Resort, so I'm looking out at 5 feet of snow on the deck, and I've been out skiing the last couple of days.
Wow.
So I've come a long way. So it started out in, I went to school in Toronto, of course, and then, but a few things happened along the way that kind of changed my life a lot. First of all, I grew up summers on a little island in northern Ontario where we had to get there by canoe, and tented for a while before cottaging, and we still go there. So that made me that was my outdoor beginning. And then in grade 10 at school, we had to read Lost Horizon. And that's James Hilton's story of finding Shangri-La. And that really, for some reason, really resonated with me. And then before that, at age 10, when my paternal grandfather died, he left all of his grandchildren $100 each. And he said, Mom and Dad said, buy something to remember him, buy something important. And so I bought a typewriter and declared I would be a writer.
Oh, wow. Chills.
It took me a long time to get back to that. And then in grade 13, there used to be a grade 13 in Ontario. I was lucky enough to go to school in Neuchâtel. And I stayed there for a year. And in my bedroom, I looked out over Lake Neuchâtel to the Swiss Alps.
So Neuchâtel is in Switzerland, and Switzerland is a really tiny country. So from Zurich, where I live, in 2 hours, you're in Neuchâtel, and it's in the French part of Switzerland.
So I was really lucky, obviously. And that really cemented my love of the mountains. So I've got, the reading Lost Horizon and the mountains and the magic and the wisdom of the Dalai Lama and all that came together. But for 6 years, I was a teacher in Toronto. But then those influences really got to me, and I moved west to Vancouver, and I was a teacher and a consultant and a school principal for another 31 years. But I'd always wanted to be a writer. So when I retired at 60, I went to journalism school for a year. And that was pretty exciting because I was 60 and most of the kids in the class were 23. But they helped me a lot with, I had a secretary when I was a principal. I didn't know much about technology. So I had a lot to learn, and that was really stressful. but they helped me and I helped them with contacts for interviews and things. I knew a lot of politicians and school board people, and I knew them because I was a principal in inner city schools. And in Vancouver, an inner city school means often a school where 75-80% of the families live in poverty, and there are many children from refugee families and immigrant families. So you might have 90% of the kids don't have English as a first language. So my last school near Stanley Park in the West End of Vancouver had 600 children and 45 language groups.
Wow.
And I learned a great deal. So then I went to journalism school for a year, and then we moved to our house at the ski resort. We built it a few years before and retire. But then we started international travel.
And who is we when you say we?
Oh, excuse me. Yes. Somewhere along the line, I found a lovely husband who used to be a mountain guide and then became a teacher. So then that part of the mountains and the influence of the outdoors came together really nicely. During our teaching years, we sailed on the coast of British Columbia because we had long summers as teachers. But then, believe it or not, I did not have a passport after I came home from Switzerland. We did lots of trips in North America, canoe trips and hiking trips, skiing trips, but not international. So when we both retired, we did our first shakedown trip to the UK, and we hiked the west coast of the west half of the Coast to Coast Trail. And that was my first time really backpacking for any more than 3 days at a time, because we usually only had weekends. And then our next trip, we kind of took a giant leap and we went to Tibet, and we flew into Lhasa at 12,000 feet. And then we drove west and for 5 days. And then we hiked something called Mount Kailash, which is a 3-day Kora or walk around a sacred mountain. And the top altitude there was 18,600 feet.
Do you know the equivalent in meters? Because I'm not good in feet.
Yes, it's 5.6 or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's high.
Yeah.
And I was fine. We went very slowly and I was fine. But that was my first time at altitude. My husband, Barry, had done that as a mountaineer, but that was my first time. So then we thought that worked out really well. So, and it was about 3.5 weeks altogether. We also, on the way back to Lhasa, went to Everest Base Camp North, which was not quite as high, but close. And then we took the roof of the World Train from Lhasa back to Beijing, which is quite an experience as well. It's an overnight train. So we thought, oh, that went well. That was 3.5 weeks. We can be away that long. So we decided we would go to Nepal the next time. And Barry said that he wanted to do the Annapurna Base Camp trek. And then we would do the Annapurna circuit around the outside of the circle. And I said, well, I'm kind of interested in this area called Upper Mustang. It's very Buddhist. It's near the Tibet border. Let's go there. And then we said, well, if we're there, we might as well do the Everest Base Camp trek. So we did all three. And we stayed for 3 months. Yeah. And we were 65 at the time.
And how did you train before? Did you do some workouts in Canada?
Oh, yes. Barry was a teacher, but he also has a degree in physical education and science. He's always been interested in training. Me, not so much, but I love skiing. So cross-country skiing in particular, we do all kinds of skiing, but cross-country is really good training. Summer hiking. And in the summer also, I do a lot of swimming and rowing. And for a brief time in my 40s, I did triathlon for a while. So before I became a principal and I had enough time, I did a half Ironman. And then I became a principal and didn't have enough time to train. But mostly it was the skiing, really. The skiing with a backpack on,
Yeah, wow. Okay. So yeah, that's like another level of training. I hate cross country. I did it only in school and it was like, oh no, come on. When I can slide down a mountain or just, jogging and cross country is not for me. But if you do cross country with a backpack, I'm like,
No, it was not a heavy backpack really, but try to put a bit of weight in it just to get used to it.
yes, and of course,
Yeah.
it makes sense to be trained when you go to a high
Oh,
mountain.
absolutely. Yeah. And you walk usually 4 hours in the 8 to 12 in the morning, and then have a long lunch, and then another 2 hours in the afternoon. It's not really that drastic. I mean, there are people that walk longer days, but most of the ones that we do are not that long. So at the end of that trip, just before we left Namche Bazaar on the Everest circuit, Barry had it. We're not sure what it is, but something like an angina attack, which is unusual because he's so fit. And we had to be evacuated by helicopter to Kathmandu. And he had a stent put in one of his arteries at midnight that night on his birthday. We all sang happy birthday. And then, and then we had to stay for 10 days for observation. We got an amazing doctor who was from India and was there to train the Nepali cardiologists. So it was fine. We got probably way faster service there than we would have in Canada.
Wow.
So we came home, and, he took it easy for a while, but he's totally back to training and fitness and everything now.
Wonderful.
But, we'd been there for 3 months, and it was just the two of us and the same guide and porter for 3 months. So of course we got to know them really, really well. And we learned about their village and where they'd come from. And we decided we wanted to go back and volunteer at their village and then, do another trek. So we planned that 2 years later. But before we were going to go, Barry ruptured his Achilles tendon because he was running in the driveway, sprinting with our grandson. So he couldn't go. And I thought, I was 67, almost 68. And I thought, I can't wait, because if I wait too long, maybe I'll never go. Because my sister was ill. My best friend had cancer. She beat it, and both my parents had died. So I just had my brother and sister left. And I thought, if I don't go now, I might never go. So I could be the next one to get sick. So I gathered my courage and I went by myself for 2.5 months. Yeah. And it was scary at first. I mean, I kind of demanded Raj would be my guide, the same guide, because I trusted him, and we had lots of fun. And the scariest part, frankly, was going into the Kathmandu airport, because you get there from Hong Kong at 10 at night and it's just crazy. There's crowds of taxi drivers trying to get your attention, and people want to carry your bags, and they're looking for money. Of course, they're not bad people. It's just crazy. But Raj was right there to meet me, and after that, it was fine. So I was
how beautiful how you build up the relationship over 3 months. I mean, a week would be nice already, but 3 months, that's like a relationship can really develop, and you know each other without words, I guess. So being greeted by him must have been a very, very good feeling. Like, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. Big hug. Yeah. Yeah. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. We spent a day in Kathmandu spending money that some student, some teachers and students had made, and family and friends, everybody sent a little bit of donation. So I had $1,000 to spend on school supplies. So we did that for an entire day. And then we headed out to his village. Takes 7 hours over very rough potholed roads. And I stayed there, and I was a teacher for a few weeks. And I had not been a teacher for a while, right? I'd been a principal. And then going into this school was really crazy. It's very remote. One tap in the village, kind of intermittent electricity. The rooms are just really cement bunkers, so nothing sticks on the walls. It's very primitive compared to what I was used to as a teacher in Canada. The kids are fabulous, and the people were so welcoming, and kind of had to learn from the teachers what worked there and what didn't.
How did they manage to use what they had?
Yes. Yeah. And they were thrilled, because I made a lot of teaching materials to take with me. I went back to being a grade 2 teacher kind of, and And I took 2 duffel bags. One was for me for trekking and stuff. The other was full of school supplies that I was able to leave there. And then after we were there for a few weeks, we went on a tour around the area to deliver the school supplies that we bought in Kathmandu because we wanted to give them to some of the other schools. It was mostly sporting equipment. And then they had a surprise for me. After about 10 schools, we went to a village where no foreigner had visited. So nobody had helped these people. So I was the first foreigner to visit the village, and I felt like Queen Elizabeth. There were rows and rows of children with flowers.
Oh.
And that it was just amazing. And they made me feel so important. And I thought, who do they think I am? But they wanted to show me their village, and they showed me their school that the villagers had built. It was a 2-story school at 55 years old, made of mud and stone, really. And the top floor was condemned because it was in such bad shape and it was falling down around the children, but they were still using the main floor. It's very, very dangerous. And they said to me, could you help us build a new school? And I thought, do they think all Westerners have a lot of money? Or
of course.
What could I do? And I felt like such an imposter, and I felt really badly taking their time and, getting their hopes up. And then we left and we went to the Kathmandu is the largest city in Nepal. The second largest is Pokhara. It's on a big lake, and it's kind of a resort town. And we went there for a few days to have some pizza and wine, do the laundry, and just have a rest. And then we set out for the trekking portion of the trip, which was a month in the area of Upper Mustang that I loved and wanted to go back to. And all the time I was in Upper Mustang, I was thinking, what can I do? What can I? And at first, my goal was to go and write travel articles about the effects of tourism in Upper Mustang, because it only opened in 1992. It's still restricted, as like Bhutan is restricted. You have to have certain permits to get in. And we were going to this festival, a Buddhist festival called the Tiji Festival, for 3 days in the capital city. It's a medieval walled city of Lomantang. And it takes several days to get up there over some pretty high passes. And, we made it up there. And all this time I was stopping and interviewing people along the way. There are some photos that I sent you. There's one of me sitting in the kitchen with a fellow called Erkan, who is the owner of Burkuti Lodge. And I interviewed him, and we had a great time. And I thought, maybe I could write some travel articles. But then I started meeting monks who were teachers, who ran monastery schools. And the most important one was called Khenpo Swang. Khenpo is like a doctorate. And he ran the Namgyal Monastery School. And it was really north near the Tibet border in a very remote area. And it was a boarding school for children in the area that would have no education at all, because there's no schools at all in that area. And he would go to Singapore every year for 5 months to give Buddhist teachings to make money to come back and build more dormitories and build up the school. And when I spoke to him, it was like speaking to another principal. Same wishes. And he really kind of encouraged me that maybe I could make a difference and do something in Aprok village with the school, that Devi Jal Kumari school, it's called. And so after many days of trekking back south, and finally at the end of the time, I went to a Rotary meeting in Kathmandu with a fellow called Prem Khatri, who ran the trekking company, Raj's boss. And he said, get involved with Rotary when you go home. And so I went home and spent the next few months thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And then my husband and I and 3 friends formed a nonprofit called Nepal One Day at a Time. And we started to think about raising money for the school. And I also joined a large Rotary club where I live. The closest town to the mountain resort is Vernon, British Columbia. And so I joined the Rotary Club, and that was kind of all in the works. And then in April that year, a year to the day when I had been in the village where they'd asked for my help, the earthquake hit Nepal. So it was 2015, April the 25th. And the center of the earthquake was that area where I had been. It's called Gorkha. So that was the epicenter. Everything was ruined. In the village where they asked for my help, the school fell down and every home in the village and several people were killed. And all over Nepal, there were 8,000 deaths. So we thought, okay, we got to do something. Oh, and Raj sent me a photo on Facebook of him standing in the courtyard of his family home. And beside him was a pile of rubble, and that was his home. So we, my husband is a wonderful photographer, so we had lots of photos from the first trip for the 3 months. So he put together this amazing trekking slideshow, and we showed it here at Silver Star, and this community is very supportive, made $1,000 in the first night. And then I took the project to Rotary, and over several years, we have built a school. So there's an 8-room schoolhouse with 2 toilet blocks for girls and boys now in the school. It used to be kindergarten to grade 8, and they've now been able to expand kindergarten to grade 10 because a Japanese group built some more classrooms. And now we're setting up the computer lab and staff room computers and printers for the teachers. Oh, and in between, we went back in 2017 to see the first 4 classrooms done and went on another track. We were 70 at the time, but we still went on another track, a really good one, Manaslu Circuit and into Sum Valley, which has only been open since 2008. That was amazing. And then in 2018, I went back to see the school finished and took one of the high school groups here it's called Interact. It's like a junior Rotary. They gave me $1,500, so I bought library books. They had no library books in the school, nothing. So I spent that on library books back, and they welcomed us back to the village with a parade of the entire village.
And how did they do with the houses, with the homes?
With the earthquake?
Yeah, after the earthquake, you were like focusing on the school or on the whole village, or you supported everyone? How many people are living there?
I think it's about 500 in the area. We have now started with the school and had started, with that. It's subsistence farming. Some of the families do have jobs outside, and they've been able to rebuild homes, but very few. So our next thing is homes. So a group, it's not a Rotary project because you can't do capital projects for individuals, but it's a group of friends from Rotary, from our club here, have raised enough money for 2 houses. And we were supposed to go last fall to help build the houses. That's on hold. If we can't get there soon, we may just send the money and have the group. I should backtrack a bit. The trekking company that we go with is called Ace the Himalaya, and the boss is Prem Khatri. He also, as I said, is a Rotarian, and he runs an NGO called Sambhav Nepal. So there is an official body that we work through when we send money. It goes to Sambhav Nepal, and then he organizes the projects. So our next thing is the home building. Yeah.
And now at the moment they live in tents, or how they live?
Well, tarp shelters with tin and tarp and bamboo. They were amazing. When the school fell down, they made a school with dirt floors of tin, corrugated tin and bamboo, and everybody, and there was a room for every class, and they all kept going to school. It's pretty, I can't imagine what it was like for the teachers. But so when this all came together, when I came home, I started writing articles, and then it finally came into the book, which is called Nepal, One Day at a Time. And that's what it's like, one day at a time, while you're walking, while you're trekking. And now while I'm fundraising, you just do something every day as much as you can. And on the back, you can see there's the guys I was trekking with. So Raj is on the left, the big guy. And then two fellows that were helping. We had an extra porter for a while. So it's Raj, Rasham, and Tika. Tika was our extra porter because in that area in Upper Mustang, you sometimes can't get a lodge that's suitable. So we had tents. He was carrying tents. But yeah. And we're at about 4,000 meters, I guess, 4 and a bit. Yeah.
And what is the book about? About your life and the whole journey, or you're focusing on the social life there? Or when I want to buy this book, what do I have in my hands?
Well, all of the above. It's kind of about the first part is me facing my fears of going myself. You know, what happens if I get sick or lost, or I can't find Raj in the airport, all of that stuff. And then it's about teaching and what I learned through teaching in that country and with those children in that remote village. And then it's really more of the story of what I told you about going to the other village and finding out that they wanted my help, and how my focus changed over the month-long trekking from just writing travel articles to actually doing something and making a difference, and how it came together. So I hope it's my goal to inspire other people to do this kind of thing. And not everybody can travel. Not everybody's as fit. I'm very lucky. I have, good ancestors, but
and good training discipline. Only ancestors don't help if you are lazy, eating French fries all day long.
I have French fries.
It's a choice to take care of your body and stay fit and healthy. So and it's up to you, no judgment. But you say I'm lucky, but you are probably pretty disciplined too, and enjoying the whole process.
Mm-hmm. I do love French fries. I allow myself French fries.
I love French fries too, but not every day.
Yeah, if I go for a long cross country ski, like 2 hours, okay, I can have French fries once a week.
Yeah, nothing against French fries. It's just like the habits, the daily habits, they have such a big influence on our lives and on our bodies and health. So, I mean, listening to your story, you're shining, and just it's so much joy in your talking. But I ask anyway, like, what brings you joy? Like the connection with people, I guess, and also helping is just giving is a good feeling. But can you tell us a little bit more about this brings me joy and this too, and maybe also in your everyday life in Canada, like the normal one day at a time life? What brings you joy? What is
here? It's obviously living in the outdoors. We're very lucky to live at a ski resort. The skiway is right behind our house, so discipline helps, but there's very little excuse when you just have to go out the back door and go skiing.
Yeah, so, but you could stay in your living room all day long if you could. Yes. Yeah, you could.
Yeah, but it's very beautiful here. We live in the forest. It's very quiet, and we are lucky enough to have cross country and downhill skiing, right close. So that's fabulous. I mean, I have a husband who wants to do those things. He's the one that gets me out doing it. So that's really good. That brings me a lot of joy. And it's a wonderful community. We do a lot of fundraising here for the ski patrol and the fire hall, and that I'm involved with a group of women that do that. So that's fun too. But really, I think the biggest thing in my career as a teacher and now helping in Nepal, the joy is being of service, really, and knowing that you can make a difference. And I do a bit of volunteering here. We have a program sponsored by Rotary called the Starfish Program. And so we do backpacks for 90 children in the local area every week and send them home with the kids who are, maybe their families are struggling right now and they don't have enough food. So it's two weekend meals for the family. So that's local, and that's easy to do here. It only takes a few hours a week. And then, of course, the being of service when we're away. So, every day I'm doing something maybe to get the word out, because for my book, all the profits for the book go back to education in Nepal. None of it comes to me. Well, I mean, it comes to me and then it goes to Nepal. So, yeah. So just, I don't know, it really, that brings me a lot of joy to be able to make that difference, because we live in such a world of privilege as Westerners. I mean, you certainly do in Switzerland as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And I learned that probably from being a principal in the inner city in Vancouver, and I met people, and it is about the people, the wonderful people from all over the world. They may not have had much money, but they were amazing families and wonderful children and smart kids, and they deserve a chance. All those kids deserve a chance. So it's interesting that while I didn't want to stay in education, I've actually ended up in education, but in a different way, and making a difference, hopefully, with those kids. So
yeah, and what I feel with you, I think like development projects in other countries are so tricky that you don't come in like, I'm the solution and listen to me and I have so much money. The respect and the like eye level work and appreciation and just working together, and also that it is sustainable and not after you left. I know one woman told me, I was working on a water project in South America, and because people were drinking the poisoned river water from the gold mine, and they got sick, so they built a water pipe from the other side of the river, the spring water, to the village. And after they left, the boss family took off the what's that? The
tap,
not the hose. Can I say it again?
the tap, the faucet.
The tap, yeah, the tap. They removed the tap and said, you can ask us if you want to have clean water. And then 2 weeks later, everybody again went to the river. And she said, I will never do a project like that again. It was so short-sighted. We didn't know about the whole, the system in the village. And we were just like helping from the outside. And what you like, just your friendship with the people there, everything talks about like respect and wonderful work together and being of service without like this hero attitude. I think it's
well, I hope so.
Yeah,
but I must say, when I first went to start teaching, I thought, oh yeah, I'll teach grade 2, that'll be fine. Well, it was so different. I really had to kind of take a step back and watch the other teachers and find out. They do a lot by rote learning, and they kind of wanted me to introduce new techniques, but I was doing it too quick for the children. So, but it worked out at the end when I started to step back and listen and modify what I was doing. And I learned quite a bit from being in the inner city schools in Vancouver about listening. I had no idea that I was I came from a middle-class family. I didn't think we didn't have a lot of money, but compared to those families, we did. And, the white privilege of being born in a country like Canada is huge. So I really learned and was taught by others to listen and say, no, maybe this is what I think you guys need. What do you think you need? And so the principal of the school, Debbie Jalkamari School, has a list. He had to make a list for the government, just like I had to make lists when I was a principal. What are my goals? And we're checking them off. He wrote them all out for me in English, because he only had them in Nepali when I was there in 2018. And he didn't have a copier. So while I was visiting classrooms, he wrote them all out by hand. And we're checking off that list. Now it's kindergarten to grade 10. Now we're getting computers for the kids and the staff. So there's those steps, and there's long-term goals. So, but they're there. The long-term goals are their goals, not my goals.
And it sounds so harmonious and such a good vibe in this village. Is that really not, is that really true, but like how were you lucky to be in a beautiful community, or is there just the vibe of being like nice to each other and kind and supportive and let's do this, and like this action mode of the village? Is that unique there, or is that just like common sense, like let's do good things together?
The people of Nepal are pretty amazing. I mean, in that village and all the villages I visited, I'm sure there are little factions of people that, you know, like this or don't like that. But the thing is, we work through Prem at Sambhav, Nepal, and the villagers in that area, because he's from that area, he came from there, they know what he's done. This is not the only project. They've just opened a new school in his own village, because the school that I was volunteering in was totally wrecked in the earthquake as well. He gave his family land to build a new school. And then actually it was sponsored by Sambhav Nepal Schweiz from Switzerland. And they put all that money in, but he's the one who's boots on the ground. So having that and having that confidence, and he knows how to approach the villagers through me. Plus, I've been there, 4 times, and I always try to be the way I was when I was a principal, which was to say, you're not working for this school, we're all working together. I get the cook that we have with us to make tea, and we have tea party, and I tell them what a good job they're doing, because they're amazing compared to what I was teaching in, and ask them what they want, and try to remember their names, and try to establish a relationship. So that's why we won't help the schools, not just send the money, but people can't wait. We may have to just send the money. But it's about building the relationship with people and the village long-term, getting to know the children. Like when we're there, we camp, and the kids come at night because they want to play cards with us. And so you'll hear this little rustle, rustle, rustle outside the tent, or the dining tent, and they will come and want to play simple card games like memory, where you flip cards over and they have to match and stuff. But that's the kind of thing that we want to do, is have that relationship, because once all the other goals are set, we want to be able to raise money for scholarships to send the kids that are the brightest and want to go to Kathmandu after grade 10 for boarding school and to continue their education.
Yeah, and the children you build up the relationship while playing memory, they will be the grown-ups in exactly. A few years, and then you have like a bond which is even stronger than with the other grown-ups. So beautiful. I just love, like, I love people, I love connections, and how we kind of fall in love with each other. I'm so, like, I was drawn to Japan all my life, and I went there and it was like coming home, and how we are drawn to countries, and then it's just so good to be there and build up relationships and create amazing friendships and projects. And that's the beauty of our life, that these possibilities, they're just amazing. And the ripple effect, you don't know what each word even like will do worldwide. If you are kind to a supermarket cashier today, maybe this night will be different for this person because you were just so kind. That's what I really love. And I
agree. Yeah. And I never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd write a book. And now I've got 2 more planned. So
how many planned?
2 more.
2 more. I thought 10 more. Like, wow, okay.
Oh, no, 2 more. No, I may not have enough time for that. I'll be 75 this year.
Yeah, you will be.
I'm going to write one about growing up on our summer island what it was, how that started me as an outdoor person, and what it was like before electricity, when it was just, my brother, sister, and I with my parents and our dog, and all the skills we learned when in a world without any technology at all. So that's one. And then the next one, this one's Nepal one day at a time. The next one will be Nepal, It's Never Too Late. And it will continue the story of the school and the project, but also trekking at 75 plus. You can still go trekking at altitude if you take it carefully. So, because we've got a few treks still planned.
So cool. My aunt, she's now 96. We have a mountain cabin in the Swiss mountains without electricity, without fluent water. So I totally can relate. It's so beautiful to be up there in this slow pace, and you need to do a lot of work just to cook and wash the dishes. And up there we have all her sleeping bags of her travels to Tibet and Nepal, because every time she went, also in tents, when she was, I think she was 75 when she went for the last trip. And there was even snow on her tent, like this much of snow. So we have all her amazing sleeping bags up there. And always appreciate how she was traveling the whole world. And
it sounds amazing.
At the higher age, it's just so beautiful to see the world and make a difference, even with just being kind to everybody you meet. And you make a difference now in a bigger project. It's so beautiful. And how do you, I assume that you are a positive person all your life, because maybe you had just this amazing childhood where love and appreciation were normal. But how do people tell you oh, you're always in a good mood, but you do something for that? You say you go outdoors and do sports, but what else are you doing for yourself, like self-care, for your energy, for your well-being? What are your tricks and tools, which you maybe just do automatically, but someday you have to choose?
Yeah. So no, I've always had developed a good morning routine. And my father always got us up very early at the cottage because we were on daylight, we didn't have electricity. So he would get us out of bed and get us doing things. But just the last few months, during the pandemic, I was having as difficult a time as everyone else, and, not getting much done and feeling low. And because, one thing, we could not go to our cottage. We go every summer back to the island with just a really nice cottage. And we do have electricity now. And, and then I'm around all my family. So that was kind of depressing, not to be able to travel. And so I happened upon a book called The Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I know that one, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So now since, it's for 6 months now, I have done my own miracle morning routine. I always wrote a journal. And of course, when I'm traveling, I write extensive journals for when I come home for writing. But so I've added, the journals, the morning exercises, which I always did too, but I've kind of put it into a new package. Because if you read the book, you'll find out that I've been in 3 car accidents, not when I was driving. Once in a truck that rolled down a ravine and landed upside down. And I got 17 stitches in my head here.
Oh, wow.
That was a long time ago. But 20 years ago, we were coming in one night to the parking lot at Silver Star Mountain, and the snowbanks were huge. It was December. It was a Friday night because we didn't live here then. We were coming from Vancouver for the weekend, and a car just rammed out of the parking lot. Couldn't see us because of the snowbanks, and hit the car, T-boned us. And we saw the lights at the last second. So Barry turned enough that it hit the back door, and I was in, the front seat on that side. And then it happened again in Ontario 10 years later. So I've always had kind of a hip issue, but so I've always had to do physio exercises in the morning. So I just have to, I got the journal and a little bit of meditation and exercises and reading, usually about the craft of writing. And that's what I do first thing in the morning, every morning. And have coffee, of course, too. There's something that brings me joy, Nepali coffee.
Nepali coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a grinder and you do all the coffee making
No,
yourself?
actually, I have Nespresso. Yeah. And I make a latte every morning. Yeah.
So that brings you joy in the morning. And then how do you just keep your good energy going during the day or the week or?
Well, I do try to plan. Yeah. I don't know. I always over plan. And then I get sad because I haven't done everything I wanted to do. But excuse me, I launched my book 1 year ago. And I'm really working on trying to reflect how much has been accomplished since the book went out and all the money comes, back in for the project. And just all the things I've been able to do. I'm trying to spend a little more time thinking about that than, what's wrong or what I can't do, or trying to think, lots happened in a year and it'll keep happening. I'm absolutely amazed at the support from other people when you tell them these stories. It's wonderful. People really opened their hearts and their wallets. And, our Rotary Club, the Kalamalka Rotary Club, has about 60 members now. And so they have really been supportive. We have big fundraising events, and then you can make an application for the money for international projects. And, they really put a lot of effort and money into building the school and helping. And individuals in the club and individuals that we know they're friends and family, or just when I give a talk and people hear about it, or when we do a trekking slideshow, people are wanting to go. Like several people have gone to the village since.
Oh, cool. So, to meet them. And
when we went in 2017, when they welcomed us with a parade, we took the former president of the Rotary Club, a lady called Mary Jackson, and then another couple, because Prem from the trekking company donated an Everest Base Camp trek for 2 to our big auction, fundraising auction.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It was purchased by one of the Rotarians. So he and his wife went to do Everest Base Camp trek and went to the village. Then, because the school was built, and to see what was happening, and ended up donating $1,000 to furnish the staff room because there was no furniture. It was just a room. And then another young woman who was part of the high school Interact Club that made the money for the library books, on her gap year, she went and taught at the village for a little bit of 2 or 3 days. But so more people are becoming, making that connection, the Canada-Nepal connection.
And it's like sister cities. I think when the relationships grow and different strings are built, it's so beautiful. It's just a good feeling to be connected internationally and supported. And so that obviously brings you a lot of joy. And you're and that's, are you honoring your accomplishments enough? Like you said, you want to think about them, but like not being like, ooh, I did that all, but like, wow, I'm doing good. Are you?
Yes, I'm learning to do that. I have a saying that I learned from a workshop I was at that says, until further notice, celebrate everything. So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
celebration and gratitude for everything. I think that's such a beautiful feeling. Also gratitude for your own body and that you can travel and all the things to be grateful for. It's
that's part of my journal every morning is gratitude. Yeah, definitely. And I find I write one full page usually every morning, and I find that really makes me sort through my goals for the day, but also what I've accomplished and how I'm feeling, and yeah.
So what are the book writing time frames? Like how long do you give yourself for the next book? I know we met in SPS, in self-publishing school, and there is the claim like write your book or publish your book in 90 days.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I have now. My book is now finished and will be out in the market very soon. It's like
Wonderful.
the last edit.
Wonderful.
But yeah, it took me a year. So how long will you give yourself for the next book?
I have a draft done, first draft. I'm on revision chapter 5, draft 2, and it'll be about 20 chapters because it's a memoir. And the last 2 chapters will be about my ancestors. So I have to wait till I get to Ontario to do that, to look in the archives and everything. And then the plan then is to write those 2 chapters, put it all together and have it ready for end of this year.
Wow.
So December. But I probably won't launch it until maybe April, because that's when people start to think about going to their cottage and opening up their summer homes. And I'd written an article for Maclean's magazine, which is our Cross Canada magazine, about renovating our old family cottage. And they held off putting it in the magazine until April because they said that's when people start thinking about that. So I'm thinking that might be a good time to launch. Because, and the ancestral part is that my ancestors came from England in 1868. They settled on the shore of this lake. And then my grandfather, that they built one house. Their son built a second house, both looking over the lake. My grandfather was born in a log cabin that became the second house. And he looked out over the lake and said, I like those islands. And he bought 3 islands for $25 each.
Wow.
And that's how we end. It's just the luck of the draw that we end up having that wonderful place. So that's the introduction to the story, but I'll put it at the end because, you start your writing in a exciting place of, yeah. So that'll be done at Christmas. And then, I don't know, another year probably for the next Nepal book, because it has to be after we've gone back and done another track and put it all together. So
do you have any advice for people who are dreaming of writing their own book? Like, because writing a book is, you just write and then you have sentences and then chapters and then a book, but it's really a process, an inner process to believe that you have something to say and that anybody will be interested. So do you have any just advice from your heart for book writing people who want to?
Well, it's interesting because when I wrote Nepal One Day at a Time, I finally at the end, worked on it for quite a while. And then I gave it to an editor that I met at a conference. And I thought, if she says it's a piece of garbage, I'll just give it up. Well, because I'd never written a book. So she said, oh no, highly publishable, and gave me some advice of things I could fix and make better and everything. And I did. But so it's, and that was all because of conferences. I've been to some amazing writing conferences, and I think that's where you really you find your tribe for a start. You find the other people going through the same things, but you get so much advice about, individual chapters, just everything. Going to those conferences is amazing. I went to one called Book Passage in San Francisco. It's the Book Passage Travel Writers and Photographers Conference, and I've been 3 times. And it's run, they didn't have it this year, but it would have been the 25th anniversary. It's run by former editor of the San Francisco Chronicle travel section and a contributing editor to National Geographic. These guys are top level, wonderful writers. And I learned an incredible amount there. So that's how I got to write a bunch of travel articles, which then became, enough confidence to put it together in a book. So it's really just getting out there and joining those people because everybody is afraid. You read the very, very best top authors and they think I'm only as good as my last book and they're afraid to start another book. So
just be brave and do what you love to do. I mean, you are pulled by your dreams and just doing it without, maybe with hesitation, but you do it anyway. So that's the big magic when you don't stop, even though you're doubting yourself or thinking like your thought, this could be a piece of garbage. Yeah. And now you have a book which brings in all these beautiful opportunities and talks and we met over this book. How cool is that?
And I have a sign on my desk. It says, "Proceed as if success is inevitable."
Oh, I love it. I love it. Do you know who said that, or is it?
Just a sec. No, it says unknown.
Yeah, I love it.
So I try to keep that.
Yes, and that's just more helpful as every doubt, like dictating your thoughts. It's just better to focus on this direction. So to wrap up our beautiful hour, what is your message to the world? I mean, you are so internationally set up, and as we are in the worldwide internet, everybody can listen to your message. So like, what do you tell the world because of your wisdom and your life experience and just everything? Like, just what comes out of your heart?
Mostly to step out of your comfort zone, get out there and do stuff. The trekking and stuff that I do sometimes, it's uncomfortable. I don't get a shower for a week or two. And, but the rewards of meeting the people you meet and being able to be of some kind of service and to learn from them. I was particularly impressed with my young friend that went, the girl from the Interact Club. Her name is Bailey Moran. Her takeaway when she went to the village was how much she learned from them, how impressed she was that they were subsistence farmers at the end of a long, long, very bumpy, very dusty, sometimes rutted and muddy road, and how well they managed and how happy they were and how wonderful. So being able to see that in other people, but you have to step out of your comfort zone to do it, Yes, you're going to be in a crowd of people that speak a different language. So what? You're just not that important. Listen and find somebody to help. There's so much that can be learned, and from relationships with people and from going past what you think you can do.
And listen to your heart, right? You wanted to go to this part of the whole world. We can't go everywhere and help everywhere, but this is like your place, and find your own place, I think, is like, where are you drawn to? Maybe a totally different area of the whole planet, and then go there, look at places, travel.
And excuse me, and never doubt that one person can make a difference. You can make a difference. Other people will come along with you. You just have to be open to all the opportunities. And when somebody says, in my book, for instance, did I want to go to this cave monastery? We haven't ever been that way. It's very different. What would happen if I went? And that changed my life because I made that decision to go that day to that different place and to go to the village and to meet the people and think, oh, maybe I could make a difference. So never doubt that one person can. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Patti, for this hour of talking together over an ocean. I love that this is possible. Every time I'm amazed. I mean, hello here. we can talk on camera. This is so good.
It-
When I was in Japan 20 years ago, there was no Skype, no Zoom, no smartphones. And yeah, and you can tell even more stories about the earlier times. Like, it's just, I'm grateful for Zoom and the internet that I could connect with you in this way.
Oh,
Thank
I
you
am
so
too.
much.
When it's especially lovely to speak to someone in Switzerland. I haven't been there for a long time. I did go back in 2015 because that was my 50th high school reunion. So we went back to Neuchâtel and stayed for a few days. And then because we never go anywhere unless there's hiking involved, we did the Tour de Mont Blanc.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was lovely. It was so wonderful to be back in Switzerland. I mean, in France and Italy, yes, but it was so great to be back in Switzerland. It really opened up my heart.
Oh, so beautiful.
Nice.
And I was once on a canoe tour in Ontario with tents for 5 days, and I'm so in love. When you talk from your islands, I'm like, oh, can I visit, please? So
Sure.
Let's meet somewhere there or here and get to know each other in person, because that's like the very best.
Yeah.
After Zoom, like in person, that's even better. Thank you so much for this interview. Have a wonderful day, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes if you liked it. Also, make sure to join my free Joy group on Facebook to discuss this episode and other Joy topics, and you can find the link to it in my show notes on joyismycompass.com/blog. If you are looking for ways to incorporate more joy into your daily life, I've got the most awesome tool for you. Head over to joyismycompass.com/UA to hire your personal universal assistant. What is that? You'll find out. Just click on the link joyismycompass.com/UA. See you in the next episode.